the big problem this country has is being politically correct. I've been challenged by so many people, and I don't frankly have time for total political correctness. And to be honest with you, this country doesn't have time either.
Yes, political correctness is out. American exceptionalism is back, ready to re-empower our republic as one nation under God by restoring our unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives, with your host, John Matthews.
The latter-day prophet, saying against the hypocrisies of our time.
And Joe Hakos.
You want answers! I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
The Conservative Syndicate is comprised of some of the most informed pundits and activists available today. Together we seek to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state through education, information, and engagement on the religion of politics and the politics of religion. And now, your hosts of the nationally acclaimed, globally syndicated Conservative Syndicate, John Matthews and Joe Hakos. And how are we doing out there all across this great republic of ours and around the world? It's that time once again for the Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives coming to you live right now all across this great globe of ours. It's just the greatest place to live. I mean, well, I guess that's kind of redundant since there is no place else to live right now. I guess as far as I know, we still are the only humans are out there, I guess. So just kind of got carried away with my enthusiasm there for a moment. Anyway, glad to have you with us today at the Conservative Syndicate. We got some good interviews for you today. I think some good interviews. We're going to see here. We're going to have Greg Hopkins, author of the book A Time to Kill, The Myth of Christian Pacifism, is going to join us in just a few moments. And second hour, we're going to have Christopher Chamberlain, running for governor out there in the great land of Minnesota, the land of Al Franken and Jesse Ventura. We're going to see what this guy's made of. And he's going to be, well, I guess we're going to kind of be, if I can use a rather sexist phrase, we're going to kind of bust his cherry. I don't think this guy's been interviewed by too many people, and we're going to see what he's made of. And we've already got, because he's got a couple of stances here that just conflict with Joe and myself, how we view certain things. And so we're going to see if this guy can hold up under conservative scrutiny. We'll see what's going to happen with that. So having said that, we want to touch real briefly here. We're not going to do a whole lot today. We're going to expound more on this tomorrow. But Donald Trump gave his first press conference, and surprisingly, believe it or not, this is all over the news today. And guess what is not all over the news today? Barack Obama's farewell speech last night. I've seen very little on it at all. So I guess Trump has, managed to even take the limelight away from Donald Trump. Of course, we already know. We don't have to listen to Barack Obama. We already know what he talked about. Just what a great guy he is. What great policies he's done. How much greater the country is. How much more secure the world is. So we don't have to worry about that. But I'm going to turn it over here to Joe because it was a lightning rod today. From what I understand, what took place in the press conference today, Trump just no holds barred. And I'm just hoping more press conferences like this where he just comes at the press like, you know what? You guys don't even know what you're doing. So the con is yours, Joe.
All right, great, John. So what we're talking about is Donald Trump in his press conference today, and the report was from quote unquote the BuzzFeed, okay, and their buddies CNN. So this is just an example of fake news, and this has been going on since probably November 9th, right after the election was over. Hillary Clinton's lost, and now it's fake news all day, all night, and some people just can't stand it. And so fake news, let's remember, fake news, CNN, quote unquote, broke this news about President-elect Trump and Russia, about some outrageous relationship they have, and BuzzFeed then published this fake news, this intelligence report, and there's serious reason to doubt the allegations. That's what they said inside this report. So Donald Trump was kind of asked about it today, and so he made a comment about it. And this is the response Donald Trump has towards the fake news, BuzzFeed, and CNN. This is from his press conference. I thought this was the best part of his whole press conference. So let's let this run in.
That you had this morning about are we living in Nazi Germany? What were you driving at there? What are you trying to tell the
I think it was disgraceful that the intelligence agencies allowed any information that turned out to be so false and fake out. I think it's a disgrace. And I say that, and that's something that Nazi Germany would have done and did do. I think it's a disgrace. That information that was false and fake and never happened got released to the public. As far as BuzzFeed, which is a failing pile of garbage, writing it, I think they're going to suffer the consequences. They already are. And as far as CNN going out of their way to build it up. And by the way, we just found out I was coming down. Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen is a very talented lawyer. He's a good lawyer in my firm. It was just reported that it wasn't this Michael Cohen they were talking about. So all night long, it's Michael Cohen. I said, I want to see your passport. He brings his passport to my office. I say, hey, wait a minute. He didn't leave the country. He wasn't out of the country. They had Michael Cohen of the Trump Organization was in Prague. It turned out to be a different Michael Cohen. It's a disgrace what took place. It's a disgrace. And I think they ought to apologize to start with Michael Cohen.
Sir, since you're attacking us, can you give us a question?
Go ahead.
Mr. President-elect.
Go ahead.
President-elect,
Go ahead.
Since you are attacking our news
not you.
organization,
Not
can you give us a chance?
Your organization
You are
is
attacking
terrible.
our news organization.
Your organization
Can you give us a
is
chance
terrible.
to ask a question, sir?
Go ahead.
Sir, can you state,
Quiet.
Mr. President-elect,
Go ahead.
can you state
She's
categorically,
asking a question. Don't
Mr.
be rude.
President-elect, can you give us a question?
Don't be
You're
rude.
attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude.
Can you
No,
give
I'm not
us a
going to give you a
question?
question. I'm not going to give you a
Can
question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir,
go ahead.
Can you state categorically that nobody... No, Mr. President-elect, that's not appropriate.
No, I'm not you. Question. You are fake news, CNN.
Hey, you know what? Did we ever, in the 8 years of the Obama administration, ever have such rancor amongst the press corps about anything that Barack Obama said? It's like everybody in the room. It sounded like everybody in the room wanted to say something.
Yes, everybody in the room. The CNN guy's going, "You're attacking us. You're attacking us. Give us the question." He's like, "No, I'm not giving you a question. You're fake news."
I love it. I mean, these guys, you know, that's the thing. They're still trying so hard to cram Trump into their little template as to this is how you respond. You know, and Trump they haven't figured out this guy isn't going to play the game. I mean, let's we talk about him being an establishment guy, you know, and his history shows that. We can't be delusional that Donald Trump hasn't played politics. He's admitted it himself. But the thing is, he's also an insider on the entertainment industry. He's been around. He's been amongst these people. He knows what a bunch of jackasses they are. You know, this is going to be...
CNN didn't do their due diligence, and they published this thing. They put it on the air. They forget they're staking their reputations on it, and the president-elect of the United States just called them out as being fake news. They called them exactly what they are, and now you're attacking us. No, he's just stating a fact, and now you don't like it.
Here's the thing about this. I pulled up this report that everybody's talking about that Jake Tapper trotted out here, putting a little disclaimer on it. Well, it's unsubstantiated. We've never been able to substantiate the sources, but we're going to throw it out there anyway because we want you to know what's going on. This report made it through the intelligence community. And so I went and got the report. I found it, and I downloaded it. I started looking through it. The similarities between this fake report that is unsubstantiated with no sources named is very similar to the report that was put out to the public that Barack Obama had asked about. I said he needed before. I mean, some of the pages, it's like they just cut and pasted. You know, it is amazingly similar. And the point being, it has been totally unsubstantiated, as the media has admitted. And it is just, we're going to talk more about this tomorrow. But at Donald Trump press conferences, I think, wait to see if the ratings on these press conferences succeed Saturday Night Live. This stuff is great. We got to go to a break. We've got Greg Hopkins sitting off on the sidelines here. We'll be right back, guys. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. We're not arguing. We're explaining why we're right. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-790-5960. That's 1-800-790-5960. Again, 1-800-790-5960. Call now.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live Daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decisions concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Attention taxpayers. If you've received a notice from the IRS or state, do not ignore it. It's also a big mistake to try and handle your tax problem on your own. If you owe back taxes, it's a fact that the government has the power to take everything you own, including your home, business, wages, savings, and your freedom. But here's the good news. There's a special toll-free tax hotline set up especially for you. This tax hotline will tell you about new programs that are geared to help you dramatically settle, reduce, or eliminate what you owe. But you have to call now. Take down this number or put it in your cell phone. But call 866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959. When you call, you get free information on how you can reduce or eliminate back taxes, including penalties and interest. You can also be helped if you have unfiled returns, a tax lien, wage garnishment, bank levy, or if you've been entered into a payment plan but can't make the payments. Don't make the big mistake in thinking you can ignore or handle your tax problem on your own. You can stop the collection process immediately. Call this special tax hotline today for free info at 1-866-761-0959. That's 1-866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959.
And now back to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. All right, guys. All right. Hey, we're back, and you are listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with Joe Hakos, and we've got the first of two great interviews I'm hoping today. We've got with us Greg Hopkins, author of the book A Time to Kill, The Myth of Christian Pacifism. And Greg sent me this book, and I'm not all the way through it, but I've read enough of it, and I love what I've been reading so far. This is the mantra on this show, that there is this attitude within the Christian community that complicity is godliness, and it is such a misconception, such deception, and we see it not only from Christians themselves, but from the shepherds. I keep saying here the problem we have in the church today is that the sheep are leading the shepherds. And it's just a sham, and it's a shame. So I asked Greg to come on here, and this is going to be an interesting discussion, I believe. Last week we had on Mark, what was that? Mark Hayden, was that his name, Joe? From Concerned Conservatives. I mean, I want to make sure that I get my names right here.
That's you're wow.
Yeah, it was
sure. It's
Mark Hayden
so
from conservativeconcerned.org. And these are conservatives, quote unquote, that are against the death penalty. And so I thought, I almost wanted to see if I could get Greg on and have them both on here at the same time. But having not interviewed either one of them separately, I didn't want to, put that kind of burden on anybody. So anyway, how are you doing this afternoon, Greg?
I'm doing great, John. Thanks for you and Joe having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you. I got to tell you, this book really hit some nerves with me in a good way. I'm going to be honest with you. I spent about 45 minutes reading the introduction. I kept going back as I'm looking at it, and I start highlighting things. I'm going, oh yeah. We've been saying that. We've been talking about this and this, that, and the other. So I would like you to start out, I guess, by giving our listeners a brief overview of what the book is about, and two, why did you choose to write it?
Okay, I'll go backwards because I think that'll tell the story a little better. When I got out of college, I began to be interested in self-defense and so on. I'm a history major, especially loved military history, and I always wanted to collect historical arms and so on. But as I did, being a sincere Christian, I ran across the problem that we have with such verses as turn the other cheek and live by the sword, die by the sword. And I said, well, wait a minute now. If I'm going to belong to Jesus, then you really can't say to Jesus, okay, you're in charge of 95% of my life, but this gun thing, God, just butt out, because if we do that, then for all practical purposes, we are practical atheists, at least in that part of our lives. And so I began to study. About the same time I got interested in firearms, and as time went by, I began to put things together. I was greatly indebted to Masad Ayub in his book, The Truth About Self-Protection, where he had a chapter called The Will to Resist, and he mentioned a little bit of the spiritual side of it and the biblical side, and so I thought, that's fine. And I was on the city council in my hometown at the time, and I was on the Fire and Police Committee. I decided to join the police auxiliary so I could get a better view of what the cops were going through every day and night. And our police captain mentioned Romans chapter 13, verses 1 through 7, and verse 4, which says, the government does not bear the sword in vain. It's to be used against evildoers, which allows not only for the death penalty, but also for the weapon that the officer carries on his hip. And that was the first pure Christian treatment of it that I had run into. So I continued to look into the Bible with it until law school, and as I learned the law and planned to be a prosecutor, then the criminal law began to appear to me that a lot of it comes from the Old Testament. And so by the time I got out of law school, I had a 2 or 3 page Bible study, tried it out at a couple of churches. Nobody disagreed with me, and so I knew I must be wrong. So I studied some more and put out a pamphlet in 1999 after I got in private practice. It had good results. And then after more study in 2007, I said, people need to know this. And what I think they need to know is that God not only allows, he commands us to defend the innocent with all legal force. And the second thing is that Jesus never taught pacifism. And pacifism is an idea that came along in the middle to late 2nd century, 100 years after Christ ascended, and at least 50 years after the Bible was written. Excuse me. And it's a sort of a tradition hiding out there in church doctrine, and people are schizophrenic about it. They don't know how much force or whether God allows them to use force. So I wrote it, number one, to allow people to know that God blesses us defending the innocent, our families, ourselves, third parties, and so on. Secondly, that Jesus loves soldiers and police. And God knows the difference between murder and killing in combat, law enforcement, or self-defense. And thirdly, having had 2 stints on the Court of Criminal Appeals in my state, as a clerk, I know the appellate process pretty well. I also put in 3 chapters about the Bible and the death penalty, which you're speaking of there, so that the Christian could be and the Jew could both be equipped and have the proper mindset before they ever go into that dark place where they might have to use deadly force.
Yeah, I have like 3 different ways I could approach this, and I want to start out with one of the things that you mentioned several times, particularly in the beginning of your book, is the ignorance of the church or the ignorance of the Christians, and I am constantly talking about that. I'm constantly getting in trouble. I've been a minister for about 20 years. I spent about half of that sitting in the office of a pastor. It took me a number of years to get my pastor to even allow me to do or say certain things. He would actually, in the beginning, he would tell me, this is what you can say and this is what you can't. And then he used to rankle me a little bit, say, you preach, and then it takes me 2 weeks of damage control, and that kind of stuff. And finally, he began to see what I was doing and see what I was saying, because after Barack Obama was elected, he said to me about 3 months later, he goes, everything you've been telling me over these years is true. I thought you were kind of off kilter, and no, but everything you said is true. And I said, yeah, that it's easy to see if you take the time to look for it. And yes. I think I guess my first question would be the ignorance of the church. Do you think it's more the responsibility of the pastor, or do you think it's a willful ignorance of the congregations as a whole? Do they want to not know what God says about this stuff?
There's a lot of it there. As I say in my opening, my introduction, some people would rather say, well, if I look in here, I know about the turn the other cheek and a Sermon on the Mount thing and live by the sword, die by the sword. So what if God is going to tell me to give up my hobby? Ooh, I can't. If I don't know, I'll be able to enjoy my hobby and protect myself, and then God will just work it out, and I'll just rely on His grace when it gets to Judgment Day. You don't have to do that. It says that the Bereans were of a more noble character in Acts chapter 11 because they searched the Scriptures daily to see if what Paul told them was true. I constantly reminded my audiences in 40 years of teaching Sunday school and to adults and teenagers and filling pulpits for people on a substitute basis, that don't take what I say, at face value unless you can find it in the Bible. And the problem is that we have fallen out, Christianity in general in America, we have fallen out of the habit of being people of the Word. If you look at the politician speeches all through the 19th century and on to the Revolution and back, it was assumed that their audiences were well familiar with the Bible. Not so today. We're in a post-Christian society, and unfortunately, many Christians have joined it. But we are responsible for what the Word says. And so if we have a question, let's not be afraid of what God says. Because if we're convinced in our mind that we're going to do what God says, then we'll be all right with it. Once we decide that He said it. The job of the teacher or the preacher is to comfort the disturbed and then disturb the comfortable.
I like that. I like that phrase. Now, the other part of this thing The argument that I think most Christians, I'm going to call them pseudo-Christians. I call them pseudo-Christians because they know just enough to be dangerous. And they are, there's another phrase we have amongst the people that I hang out with. It's called you're so heavenly minded, you're of no earthly use.
Yes.
And the idea being is, you're talking, a lot of your book is based on what the Old Testament says, and a lot of people within pseudo-Christianity today would argue, well, that's the Old Testament. Didn't Christ do away with the Old Testament? And shouldn't we just be loving everybody into the kingdom? Because that's generally the expression of one way or another how it comes back at us when we take a stance on something like this and say, if you murder somebody, you should pay for it with your life.
Mm-hmm. And the question is, well, who says so? Well, if I'm an atheist, I can say, well, the killer is obviously an inoperative or badly operating machine, and that machine should be taken out of circulation by killing it. Yeah, that might be something, but instead we find that God says that all life is precious. We were made to reflect His image, His love, His wisdom, the lifestyle that He wants us to have. There's basically the Bible boils down to two things: love God and love people. And the people who dismiss the Old Testament, who say, well, that's the Jewish revelation, they don't understand the Bible. I read the Bible through from cover to cover 5 times in 3 different translations in order to understand exactly and make sure that what I thought I was reading was what I was reading. And this is the kind of thing people have to be serious about in these things.
Yeah, it's just one of the biggest argument I run into, whether we're talking about something like the death penalty, or we're talking about the Second Amendment, or we're talking about freedom of speech, or things like abortion, things like this, is that where the pseudo-Christianity community is more into, we're supposed to be bridge builders. My opinion is we're supposed to be bridge burners. That we're supposed to bring people over the bridge and then burn it so that they don't have to go back. But this idea of when you build a bridge to something, basically what I'm seeing is that the church is being more influenced by the godless than the godly influencing the godless. It seems to be the trend, and we see that basically, I think, in many ways, well, primarily through the political arena here. And I want to, because we as I mentioned earlier in the interview, we had on Mark Hyman last week from Conservatives Concerned, and they have a very, I'm going to say, very political, articulate argument against the death penalty, and strictly from a ideological and political perspective, I really, as I listened to this gentleman talk, I said, I can see where he's coming from. I can see why people would think that, taking a life, as you said, to God, all life is precious. So who are we to take it upon ourselves to take a life? A lot of his reasoning, of course, is based from the political perspective of it's too costly. People are convicted wrongly. The families pay on both sides, whether you're the family of the victim or the family of the perpetrator. And all these things just create an environment that is just not productive within the concept of the death penalty. And even the fact that we never got into the conversation about whether the death penalty is a deterrent or not, something I'm going to have him back on to talk about here. But see, when I listen to that stuff, and this is the reason I'm bringing this up is people need to understand, you can listen to these arguments and you can find yourself being swayed into that mindset and thinking, there's a lot of validity in that. But then you step back into the Word and you say, well, this is what God says about it. So that kind of overrules anything that we may reason within ourselves as to whether we should be taking a position contrary to what God says. And so when we come back, we got to go to break here, but when we come back, I'd like you to expound a little bit on your perception of what the Bible says or what God says about the death penalty, because that's one of the main issues here. The Second Amendment thing, I think, is kind of a given, but the death penalty thing is something I think is going to be going to continue to come into the public conversation, especially as the leftists get more desperate to find stuff to throw at Trump. So stay with us right here. We've got Greg Hopkins, author of the book A Time to Kill. We'll be right back right here at the Conservative Syndicate. Don't go away.
Hey, I'll make you a deal. Give me 60 seconds and I'll give you directions to the Fountain of Youth. Okay, I'm joking. Well, kind of joking. No fountains, but youth, I got Nature's Youth and their premier anti-aging product, Nature's Youth RSF. With your sensible diet and exercise plan, Nature's Youth RSF can help you look and feel better. RSF is an all-natural amino acid supplement that supports your body to naturally increase HGH levels without any synthetic hormones. And elevated HGH levels can contribute to increased energy, improved libido, reduced body fat, and improved exercise capacity. Let's be honest. Who doesn't want to look and feel younger? Visit the newly designed website at naturesyouth.com or call 800-333-6923. That's 800-333-6923 and like them on Facebook and you'll be included in contests and exclusive offers. What a deal. Oh, speaking of deals, my time's about up. 800-333-6923 or naturesyouth.com. Who needs a fountain anyway? Call today.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
When I had a heart attack at 42, I was not sure what the future held. But a year later, the doctors could find nothing wrong with me and took me off all my medication. What did I do? I took a herbal mixture of garlic, cayenne, and a few other herbs mixed in liquid form. I now call this Extendovite. I would have never believed that a few simple herbs could actually change my life like they did. Now it's your turn to see what the powers of garlic and cayenne can do for you. For only $69.95 plus shipping and handling for a 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid, you too can begin on your path to better health. For more information, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822. Or visit our website at heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
I've owned my company for 14 years now, and I can tell you that payroll is a 4-letter word. I hate doing it. It eats up hours I don't have, and it costs me money I could be saving. But my accountant's too expensive, and I'm not sure who to call, but I know I need help.
We're Paychex, and we take all the hassles out of small business payroll. We save you time and money. It's easy. Call, fax, or give us your payroll information securely online, and we take care of the rest. We calculate the correct taxes, manage payments and direct deposits. We even send out your checks. Payroll doesn't need to be a 4-letter word anymore. We're so sure that we can save you time and money that we'll give you a month's payroll free. Just for calling 877-663-3830. Get 1 month's payroll for free. Call Paychex right now. 877-663-3830. That's 877-663-3830.
Hey, I don't back anybody unless I believe in them. And I do believe in the value of investing in gold and silver. And the company I trust to buy my gold and silver from is Swiss America. I've been working with them for nearly a decade. I trust them, and you can too. Swiss America will help you sort through and find the best options available when you're considering investing in gold and silver coins. Listen, for over 30 years, Swiss America has been offering Americans what they want in their investments: safety, liquidity, quality, reliability, and a potential profit. Gold and silver have a place in every investor's portfolio. So, why not let Swiss America help you diversify your investment portfolio now? Call now for free information. 800-978-3907, 800-978-3907, 800-978-3907, 800-978-3907.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control of your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank accounts, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problem now by calling the experts at U.S. Tax Shield and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. U.S. Tax Shield offers a price protection guaranteed quote to get you protected today. U.S. Tax Shield is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, so call now. 800-380-2906. That's 800-380-2906. U.S. Tax Shield. 800-380-2906.
Now back to the Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives. All right, hey, we're back, and you are listening to none other than the Conservative Syndicate. And if you think you're here by accident, no, doesn't work that way. We call it divine design. You're here for a reason, here for a purpose, and we're glad to have you with us today. We've got with us Greg Hopkins, author of the book, A Time to Kill, The Myth of Christian Pacifism. Now, one of the things in your book, Greg, that you were talking about, and this was probably up to this point the most interesting view or perspective, is you were talking about the pre-Noah times and the post-Noah times, the attitude that God had regarding murder or killing of any kind prior to the flood, and then how God changed his stance after the flood. And I found that, that was an eye-opener for me. I hadn't really thought about it within that context, the idea that before that, God forbid anybody, and most evident, the best evidence we have, of course, is him saving Cain after he murdered Abel and saying, nobody can take your life, because that was Cain's fear. As a fugitive, people would hunt him down and kill him. But then, as you state in there, and very biblically correct, violence was the reason God came down and destroyed the earth. That it had become so prevalent that apparently, I think you also mentioned, was it Lamech? I think, who used the authority of color kind of thing to murder people in his own family, saying, "Well, God protected Cain; he has to protect me," kind of thing. And then after Noah, God lays out these rules and says, if blood is shed on an innocent intentionally with malice or whatever, then that life is to be taken. And so, and as I read through all that, again, from the Old Testament perspective, I find that, that's pretty much it. And that's really how government functions, at least this government functions. So the laws are established a lot on, as you said earlier, the Old Testament concept of, I'm going to use, for lack of a better phrase, eye for an eye kind of thing. But the New Testament people, many people in the New Testament church would argue that has all been null and void. The fringe elements out there, I call them the fringe elements because they use God to solve, they want God to solve all of our problems absent any of their participation kind of thing. So that's a big issue here. So I'd like if you could explain that pre-Noah, post-Noah thing, because I really found that intriguing and quite a revelation, actually.
Well, thank you. The advantage that I have in writing this book, I think, over other authors, John, is the fact that you have a Christian gun nut lawyer looking at this. So I'm looking at it from not only the idea of a Christian, but also a trained historian, and that's why I went to law school. I have no marketable skills, and the fact that I am a lawyer. So I'm looking at it from a historical and legal point of view as well. God didn't have to tell the first men, you're not supposed to kill anyone. Lieutenant Colonel David Grossman has told us in his book on killing that we are hardwired not to kill our own species. All animals are. And they are all mammals anyway. But the idea is that Cain still slew his brother. And by the way, we're not told what the instrumentality was. Everyone says it was a rock, it was a club. Doesn't say. Which says he may have killed him with his bare hands, which is extreme viciousness right there. And then Lamech took that as an excuse 5 generations down to say, well, God didn't, kill Cain, so, I can kill basically whoever I have a pretty good excuse for. Until the earth was filled with violence and the imagination of man was nothing but evil, says Genesis 6. So post-flood, the third command given to Noah off the ark is, if man sheds man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed. This because a person is unique, and because that person could be the next Beethoven or the next Jonas Salk or Louis Pasteur or Isaac Newton, whatever, each person has a role to play, and God wants them to live out their lives, and to murder someone, to take life without justification. And folks, murder is the unlawful, intentional killing of a human being. That's why the King James mistranslation, "thou shalt not kill," is wrong. All the modern translations, even the New King James, says "thou shalt not murder." The Jewish word for it is lo terzach, or ratzach. And the Jews had 8 different words for killing. Killing for a sacrifice, killing for the unlawful, intentional killing of a human being, the accidental killing of a human being, killing an animal for food, all these different kind of things. They were very specific. And so God said, do not murder, not kill, don't kill nothing, no how, no time, as the pacifist would have it, but rather do not unlawfully, intentionally kill a person. And then the eye for eye, tooth for tooth is part of a judicial standard, something I lay out there to keep blood feuds and other things from occurring, but also to let people know there is an ultimate justice in the world. There was a system of law courts and everything, and when the eye is taken from the offender, it is done under the supervision of the elders in a medical manner, with a medical man at least standing by or maybe administering it. It's not me getting to poke you in an eye, and because if I get to poke you back for you poking my eye, I'm going to swirl it around a little bit, and maybe push it into your brain a little just to teach you a good lesson, you see. It takes the personal out of it, and that is what government does. Again, Romans 13, verses 1 through 7. The government is a terror to evildoers. Now, right there, when you say the death penalty is not a deterrent, you're calling God a liar. All right? Jesus endorsed the death penalty. He told the Pharisees, when they said that everything that they would have given to support their parents in their old age, they gave into the temple, dedicated the temple, and therefore couldn't support their parents. He says, you have cursed your parents under Exodus 21, and you deserve to die. That was what it was implied. He says, you guys need to be executed. Right. He is stoned to death, in fact. Jesus also, standing before Pilate, he could have very easily, that would have been a great time to have a sermon against the death penalty. But did he do it? No, he said, I'm here because God has given me into your hand, and you have the power as the earthly delegate of God, which is what Paul tells us in Romans 13. Then Paul tells Timothy in 1 Timothy chapter 1 that the law is useful for some things. We are, what Romans and Timothy tell us is that we are under civil law, and the government defines the crimes. He says, but those moral absolutes, and he talks about murderers and killers of their parents and kidnappers and all kinds of things, and he says, and whatever else is against sound doctrine, which means it's not supposed to be an exhaustive list of all the crime, identity theft or anything like that. But the Old Testament penalties are enforced, and the Old Testament morality is still there. In my chapters about Jesus, I say all this, but let's go back to the death penalty. I recommend John Lott's 2005 book, Freedomnomics. It's an answer to Freakonomics. Freedomnomics has a chapter about what caused the declines in crime, and it shows conclusively that the death penalty is in fact a deterrent. That's the biggest lie of the anti-death penalty people. It's odd that they believe robbers should be put in jail, kidnappers should be put in jail, child molesters and extortioners and people like this should be put in jail because that's a deterrent. But somehow the death penalty isn't. In fact, it is. But whether it is or not, if God says exercise the death penalty, we're supposed to do it, even though we might not do it. But what happens is with abortion, we're told in Deuteronomy, innocent blood pollutes the land. And it doesn't actually pollute the soil or anything. It pollutes our minds. And the reason we have so many people being killed in Chicago right now and around the United States in our inner cities, and the reason we had that horrible atrocity last week of the disabled young man who was kidnapped and tortured for 48 hours simply because he's white, and they thought they could get away with it because he's disabled. That is the pollution. And abortion, by cheapening, by saying there's a certain part of the population that is non-human, this is where eventually we come to after 40 years.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
Life is cheap.
I agree with that 100%. What I've got to cut you off here because we got to go to break. When we come back, Joe has a question for you regarding the Second Amendment, which I think is very relevant today. The Second Amendment is going to be much more under attack now that Trump is in office rather than if Hillary was in. I mean, it was going to be under attack anyway. But the point being is Joe's got, I think, a very relevant question regarding that. We'll be right back. We've got Greg Hopkins, author of the book A Time to Kill. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. There is an old saying, children should be seen but not heard. At no time is this more apparent than when politicians speak. TheConservativeSyndicate.net, the adults in the room. Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardosa. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardosa Live Daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decisions concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosalive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosalive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did. History affirms a vibrant civil society thrives on freedom of conscience, religion, and choice. Any society absent these qualities stifles individual responsibility and accountability, thus enslaving its people by denying them their potential for goodness, creativity, and altruism. To that extent, oppression, coercion, and totalitarianism are multiplied exponentially. To counter such outcomes, the American Freedom Alliance was formed. The AFA is a nonpartisan, non-aligned movement which promotes, defends, and upholds Western values and ideals. The Alliance strives to build an international coalition of citizens of the West who together promote and protect moral values, democracy, and freedom. To find out more and become part of this valuable asset in the preservation of freedom and all its rewards, contact us at AmericanFreedomAlliance.org. That's AmericanFreedomAlliance.org. Let freedom ring. Now back to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. All right, folks. Hey, we're back, and you are listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. Just quick note of encouragement, visit our website, theconservativesyndicate.net, if you want to pick up this archive, any of our archives. You want to find out anything about our panel, what we do, why we do it, what our motivation is. It's all there, theconservativesyndicate.net, where we're with Greg Hopkins, author of the book, A Time to Kill. And I'm going to give the con over to my partner in crime here, Joe Hakos, because he has a question regarding the Second Amendment. You got the con, Joe.
Hey, thanks, John. Hey, Greg, thanks for being here. Hey, my question is, folks are out there today, and they hear all the time, you hear on the radio about, hey, you got to be careful, even if you got a concealed carry permit, blah, blah, blah. If you were justified in taking somebody out because they came into your house and everybody's all worried about it. And then we've already seen incidences in the past where someone has broken in the house and they've killed somebody, and then they've taken the person that killed them in self-defense, no less, and taken those folks to court. And so people are either already concerned about that, and in fact have taken a life, and we've had that since the dawn of time, especially for folks in the military. I don't, the Sergeant York thing, that kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, so is there anything you can do to maybe the folks that might have these kind of concerns, you can kind of maybe assuage some of those concerns?
Yes, thank you, Joe. One of the things I do is when I talk about these biblical things, I try to show the modern statute. I actually go into the Alabama statute because that's where I practice law. I'm really not practicing per se anymore. I'm a recovering lawyer, but this is where I have practiced. And so you start with Exodus 22 verses 3 and 4, and it says that if a thief is found breaking in the daylight, then you can't kill him at that point. But if he's found breaking in at night, then you can kill him, because at night you can't tell what the numbers, what their weaponry is, any kind of thing like that. You're unable to identify them, and you can't raise what the English used to call the hue and cry in the neighborhood when they flee. So you were allowed to kill the person. Well, Jesus goes on, and when he's talking about binding Satan, he builds on Exodus 22:3, and remember, he says that he makes the remark that comparing a binding Satan, he says, if you have a strong man who is armed and armored, then he can't be, and he's on the alert, he can't be surprised and he can't be overtaken. But if he's not paying attention and if he's asleep, they can plunder him of his arms and armor and so on. Jesus mentions home defense here in just a very offhand way, as if that is the way it's supposed to be out here. As far as police having weapons, it was the very same thing in the garden. He says, "You come after me as if you with swords and clubs, as if you were coming after a robber." In other words, he's telling us that police need to be armed in order to deal with these people. That's what David said in 2 Samuel 23, verses 2 and 6 through 7. He says, if anybody's going to deal with bad people, they have to have a spear to deal with them. You can't lay hands on them. You have to have a weapon. And so Jesus talks about defending your home. What about the parable of the vineyard? He talks about the vineyard owner who not only built a watchtower, but built a wall, which means we're allowed to defend private property within the laws of our state. Now, the important thing, Joe, here is it's one of the things I wrote my book about is so people don't have to, when that guy kicks in your door or when he jumps out of an alley with a knife, that's a lousy time to start having a conversation with yourself. Is Jesus going to be okay if I blow this guy away? That's why this book is here. Long before you can have the decision and the mindset that what you're doing is blessed by God. And let me point out something here to you. Isaiah 54. I didn't know this was there until I started reading the Bible through. It was about my third run through the Bible I caught this. And he says, if anyone fiercely assails you, it will not be from me. Remember, God is the giver of all good things, James tells us. And so God doesn't send these criminals after us. This is something Satan does, and they do in cahoots with Satan. He says in verse 16 of Isaiah 54, behold, I myself have created the smith who blows the fire of coals and brings out a weapon for its work, and I have created the destroyer to ruin the bad guys. And then it says, no weapon, and many people know this verse, no weapon that is formed against you shall prosper. That the idea is we're supposed to defend ourselves, and God gives us the minds and the technology to make weapons to defend ourselves so we can fend off these bad guys. And just like he's given us the brilliant minds that give us surgery and vaccinations and all the things that make us live a lot longer than people did even 100 years ago. So people can be at rest about this when they read this book, because I'll show them book, chapter, and verse that God allows us and commands us to defend the innocent.
Yeah,
that's there.
Go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
No, I'm there because, like you said, the time when someone's kicking in your back door, or like you said, jumps out of the dark alley. Yeah, that's not the time to make up your mind on this. Absolutely enough. I've already made up my mind a long time ago about this. So, but there are those out there, and pacifism. A 20th century construct that we got from our French friends. That's where this all starts from. So,
yes.
to pacify, and it's like all pacification gets you is more evil thrown upon you.
Yeah, well, I like the idea. I think we could kind of summarize that by saying shoot first and worry about it later.
Well, that's you see, what I do now is I train concealed carry permit holders in Alabama. We don't have a requirement that people get training, just a clean background check in order to get a permit. And I train those people who are interested enough to do it. I also train armed church security teams as well. I go in and teach them 2.5 hours about the Bible and self-defense, and the next day I teach them 7 hours on the law of self-defense in Alabama, and a whole bunch of other things as well. The thing is, folks, we need, you see this all over Facebook and chat rooms and stuff, is well, all you have to say is, I was in fear for my life. That means exactly nothing in court, okay? Yeah. Exactly nothing. But if you know the statutes, and you say, well, these 4 guys reached out of a van and pulled my preacher's wife into that van and said, I know the preacher and his wife wouldn't be playing a joke on me, so I can reasonably assume that this is a kidnapping, which means I can walk up to the driver with my Glock and say, throw out the keys. And if he doesn't do it in about 2 seconds, I can perform a 9mm brainectomy. Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
And then invite the people that grabbed my preacher's wife to throw her out, or the same thing's going to happen to them real quick. Because I can reasonably assume, under the law, that the driver knew what the guys in the back were doing. If you know the elements of the crime in your state, if you take that training, then you can say to the cops, I did X, Y, and Z, because the law allows us to reasonably conclude that certain things are happening. If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck and has a bill and web feet, it's duck season, not wabbit season, and you can win.
All right, Greg, we're out of time here. I wanted to give you a moment here to sell your book. Tell people how they can get a hold of your book.
Thank you, gentlemen. It is available on Amazon, and I'm working on my website, so please don't go there. You know what happens when your youth minister is your IT guy. He just doesn't have time to do it. And but you can also order it from any bookstore. We're with the largest distributor in the United States, so they can get online and order it straight from any bookstore in the United States as well. But they've got a real bargain on Amazon right now. I think it's like $14.05 or $14.50 or something like that, which is about $4.50 off. So if you go there, and folks, if you enjoy it, please do a recommend, do an evaluation, a review on Amazon.
All right. All right, we appreciate you coming on, Greg. Very informative. I'd like to have you back here, especially as this administration begins. We're going to have a lot of stuff to do with the Second Amendment. We'd like to get you back here. So I thank you so much for taking the time to come on.
Well, thank you for having me, and I'd be happy to come on anytime, gentlemen. Love your questions, and there's so much more to talk about. I'd love to get with you sometime.
All right. Thanks so much, guys. We're at the top of the hour here, folks, and time for the Edwards Notebook, and then we're going to pay some bills, and we'll be back second hour. We've got Christopher Chamberlain running for governor out in Minnesota there. So thanks again, Greg. We'll be right back, guys. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate.
If a group of black Chicago thugs beat up and torture a white guy who supports Donald Trump, who in their right mind gives a rip if the thugs hated their victim or not? Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. On today's page from the Edwards Notebook, the last time I checked, you, myself, and every other American have unalienable rights, which include the right to choose who to support for President of the United States. Our unalienable rights come from God and cannot be obstructed by an abusive government or knuckle-dragging thugs. You have the right to live for your own sake, not according to the will of criminals in or outside of government. It was unbelievable to learn that Chicago law enforcement officials struggled to charge the thugs because they couldn't discern if it was a hate crime.
Hate crime! Hate crime! Hate crime!
Well, who cares? How about assault and battery for starters? The thugs even had a female cheerleader who recorded those imitators of vicious chimpanzees. I don't care if those black thugs hated their white victim or not. Throw the bums in jail for a long, long time and let them sort out how they feel for decades behind bars. I'm Ron Edwards.
Blowing away the myths and revealing the truth. You can continue to blow away the myths with Ron Edwards on Facebook, Twitter, and theronedwards.com.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Prices are for base buildings only. May not be available in some areas. Attention business owners, do you want a stimulus package that really works? Before you spend thousands of dollars more than you should on your next building project, listen to this. General Steel has a stimulus package designed to help you save as much as half the cost of conventional construction on your next building. As much as half. That's right, General Steel can save you thousands of dollars with a pre-engineered steel building designed for your business or church. How about a 50 by 100 foot building for under $30,000? So don't pay thousands more than you should without calling General Steel first and save as much as half the cost and time of conventional construction. With the projected demand for steel in Japan and China, prices may be skyrocketing.
877-927-3360. 877-927-3360. 877-927-3360. Term life insurance. It can be a powerful way to protect your assets and your family. You work hard to earn and save your money to build a nest egg for the future. Don't let it get wiped out because you didn't plan ahead. Take the time now and make a small investment in $500,000 or more in quality term life insurance. Call the Term Lifeline and let us shop the best companies to give you the lowest rates. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. Ask about some of our 10 and 20-year fixed rate plans with guaranteed rates. Call the Term Lifeline right now for your free insurance quote. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609. You owe it to yourself to protect your family and your assets. Make term life insurance part of that plan. Call the Term Lifeline right now. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live Daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decisions concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
I think the big problem this country has is being politically correct. I've been challenged by so many people, and I don't frankly have time for total political correctness. And to be honest with you, this country doesn't have time either.
Yes, political correctness is out. American exceptionalism is back, ready to re-empower our republic as one nation under God by restoring our unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives, with your host, John Matthews.
It's a latter-day prophet, vying against the hypocrisies of our time.
And Joe Hakos.
You want answers! I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
The Conservative Syndicate is comprised of some of the most informed pundits and activists available today. Together we seek to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state through education, information, and engagement on the religion of politics and the politics of religion. And now, your hosts of the nationally acclaimed, globally syndicated Conservative Syndicate, John Matthews and Joe Hakos. All right, folks. Hey, we're back. This is Hour 2. Hour 2 of the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with Joe Hakos, and we're glad to have you back. I hope you enjoyed that interview, the first hour there with Greg Hopkins, author of the book A Time to Kill. There were probably, every time we start to interview somebody, I have an idea of what I want to say. And then as they begin to talk, I think, oh, man, I could go here, I could go there, but we try to keep it within the context of time. But I think we'll have Greg back. Don't you think, Joe?
Oh, yeah, because there was so much more that we could go on that. But I think the main thing is if you do read his book and what he was telling you, you should be able to set your mind at ease about what biblically and what God says about doing what you need to do. And really, I've always believed that we're here to fight evil.
Well, that actually extends to...
If we don't protect others from evil, then we're not doing our duties as Christian. And the thing is above all else, we should protect children against evil.
Yeah. Well, I think that it can extend in every aspect of our lives. If we were more in tune with what God says about things and the terms and conditions that he sets forth, we wouldn't have to hide behind this blanket of complicity, fear of being, speaking our mind or presenting an argument or entering into a debate for fear of being rejected or cast out. I mean, one of the things I tell people when I speak, especially at conferences, I'll tell them, you know what, if you understand the Bible at all, you know this. You know that the world hates you. Jesus said it would hate you because it hated him first. So you're going to be hated whether you're agreeing with them or not. So why not take the biblical stance on something? Because even if you side with the world, as soon as you tell people you're a Christian, you're labeled. And I don't care if you're a pseudo-Christian or if you're a real Christian. I don't care if you're somebody who practices discipleship or if you're somebody that just goes to church because your mom makes you. It doesn't make any difference. That label is something that the world looks at as that the enemy, the main obstacle, the main thing that can keep them from getting what they want the way they want it. And we have to remember that. I remember there was an old general during Vietnam, I forget his name, but he said you got to keep the main thing the main thing.
Yeah.
And that's so that's what we have to do here. So anyway, we're going to go to a break here. This is a short segment, and I'm cutting it a little bit short here because we've got a guest coming on here, the candidate Christopher Chamberlain, running for the governor of Minnesota here. And because our Moments of Madness is a little bit long, and I want to be able to give him due time for the interview that I promised him. So we're going to go to break. It's time for Moments of Madness. When we come back, we'll have Christopher Chamberlain, candidate for governor out there in Minnesota. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. Today on Moments of Madness. Just before Christmas, the Alinsky Party of America, also known as the Obama administration, abstained from voting on a UN resolution that demands the halt of settlement activity by Israel on occupied Palestinian territory. This move by the U.S. was unprecedented in that the U.S. has abstained less than 24 times on 226 UN resolutions against Israel since 1948. Those choices to abstain were all resolutions condemning Israel for acts of defense. This resolution was put forward at the 15-member council by New Zealand, Malaysia, Venezuela, and Senegal, a day after Egypt withdrew their support under pressure from Israel and U.S. President-elect Donald Trump. Israel and Trump had called on the U.S. to veto the measure. The resolution was adopted with 14 votes in favor to a resounding round of applause. It is the first resolution the Security Council has adopted on Israel and the Palestinians in nearly 8 years. The international community has told the people of Israel that the way to security and peace is not going to be done through occupation, but rather through peace, ending the occupation, and establishing a Palestinian state to live side by side with the State of Israel on the 1967 line, Palestinian negotiator Saeb Erekat told Reuters news agency. Outraged by conservatives as well as GOP neocons like John McCain and Lindsey Graham were incessantly predictable. The question now being asked, if only rhetorically by the media, is why would Obama do this? And why would he do this now, given his lame duck status amid an incoming Trump administration that will surely undo this as quickly as it was passed? The answer to this and other questions regarding Obama's scorched earth maneuvers in his last days is actually found among another brewing controversy, this one involving Russia. Here's the madness. In June 2016, Nancy Pelosi trots out the Russian hacking theory now being reported as fact after the DNC is hacked along with the State Department. The DNC emails are leaked and show a conspiracy to make sure Hillary wins the nomination. At that time, everyone claims no one knows for sure, but they think it might be Russia, hence Pelosi's preliminary damage control effort. Little attention is paid to the content of the emails, but rather the alleged source. Then a month before the election, WikiLeaks trots out John Podesta's emails, showing within the Clinton campaign not only conspiracy to make sure Hillary wins, but collusion with the media, including how to manipulate polls, corruption with donors, and even racism, needy Latinos, and a Catholic church spring to change church doctrine. Again, no one has evidence Russia is behind this, only speculation. And again, the content of the leaked emails are secondary to the narrative being advanced Russia is up to no good, and now Trump may be part of it. Then the election comes. Hillary loses. All of a sudden, Obama says he knew of Russian interference in 2015, but chose to remain silent because he figured Hillary would win anyway, so why give ammunition to us right-wing fanatics? In fact, Obama says he has known of Russian interference since 2009. The proper term is spying, by the way, the same thing we do to them. Obama chose to remain silent then also. All of a sudden, everyone agrees it has to be the Russians. Still no evidence, just assessment and speculation. Jay Johnson of the DHS, along with Director James Clapper of the NSA, speaking on behalf of his and 16 other intelligence agencies, concur by assessment they believe it is Russia. Not one soul from these other agencies is asked to concur with Johnson and Clapper's claim by the media. The CIA and eventually the FBI reconcile their different assessments and validate the narrative. Apparently, FBI Director James Comey owes one to Obama for costing Hillary the election. Not Hillary, Obama. Security experts hired by the DNC, along with college professors, claim the hacking shows similarities to earlier hacking procedures by Russians, while other experts say the Russians, if guilty, would employ tactics that were untraceable. Calls for evidence remain unanswered, but speculation becomes fact because everyone thinks it's the Russians. Joining the cadence are neocons John McCain and Lindsey Graham, again as predictable as they are moronic. House Speaker Paul Ryan agrees since he has to deal with these neocons who are establishment icons. Under immense pressure to produce evidence, Obama demands a report be submitted to him before he leaves office. Meanwhile, Obama puts sanctions on Russia and pulls diplomats out of their capital. Now with the report in hand, amazingly it only took less than 3 weeks, Obama says he has his evidence. And where does it come from? Obama's own people at the DHS. The same DHS that swore the integrity of the elections could not be compromised when they thought Hillary would win and Trump might contest the results. The only real evidence before us is a fabricated narrative designed to deflect blame off of Obama's failed policies and agenda, including his attempts to undermine Israel. It's not even about Hillary. The evidence indicts Obama's tenure, a loss of a total of 1,042 seats across 50 states once held by Democrats are now held by Republicans and other parties. 60 seats lost in the House and the Senate. Democrats now hold only 12 governorships, all in states that are facing bankruptcy in major urban centers. What should be asked by the media is why, with all the failures of Obama, would Putin want Trump when Hillary would better serve his game? Think about that. An even more relevant question is, so what if Russia did it? What does Russia have to do with the UN resolution against Israel? Well, we could ask the question, where is the outrage regarding Obama interfering in the election process in Israel? Something that has been documented. Obama injected $350,000 in cash and dispatched his former campaign chair, Jim Messina, to work to displace Netanyahu. If we want to know the answer to both the reasoning behind the UN resolution and why the hacking issue is of such importance, we need to lay both these issues side by side. Obama never does anything for one simple reason. It is always about his agenda, his image, and his plan to fundamentally transform the United States of America. But my guess, the media will never expose Obama before the return of Jesus or the producing of evidence that supports his claim Vladimir Putin elected Donald Trump, not his failed efforts as America's most famous community organizer. This is John Matthews for Moments of Madness. And now back to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. All right, hey, we're back, and this is the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with Joe Hakos. We've got with us now Christopher Chamberlain, running for the office of governor out there in the great state of Minnesota, land of Jesse Ventura and Al Sharpton. And that must be a hell of a place to be running as a conservative right now. How are you doing this afternoon, Chris?
I'm doing okay. And you mean Al Franken, don't you?
All right. All right. You hearing us okay?
I'm sorry, what?
Are you hearing us okay?
I am.
Okay. That's great. I guess the first thing I want to ask you right off the top here, because you are a self-avowed, I'm going to say, newbie to politics. What inspired you to run for office?
Looking at the current situation in the state of our great nation, and the state of Minnesota in particular, we've had Dems trampling on constitutional rights and liberties for the last 8+ years, and it's time to put a stop to it. It's time for someone to actually listen and stand up for the people, not their personal agenda, not party politics, not special interests.
Okay, now I just, I'm going to rib you probably all during the interview about having Jesse Ventura as a governor and the great Al Franken as a senator out there. But take it in good spirit, because I live in California, okay, where nobody out here in Congress is really worth anything except maybe Tom McClintock. So it's just the way it is. But I want to ask you, I just got to ask you, just before we get into talking about your platform and what you want to do for Minnesota, what kind of effect has Al Franken had on the state as a senator?
Let's see here. The minus symbol comes to mind. Negative. I try not to badmouth a lot of people, but I've seen some of the voting issues that he's gone through, and I shake my head. I'm like, Al, what are you thinking? I know you're a Democrat, but come on, be a human being.
Well, I think he's much more than a Democrat. He's a democratic socialist, if at best. At worst, he's Obama. The leftism that comes out of this man's mouth is just, it's right up there with Nancy Pelosi. You can put this guy, and him and Nancy Pelosi next to each other. Sometimes I listen to him talk, and if I close my eyes real hard, I can imagine both of them. Franklin dressed as Stuart Smiley or Smalley, doing the same thing. I don't know. I have certain images in my mind that make me kind of a weird individual here. But now, getting into your platform here, and I'm gonna be frank with you about some of your positions here, and Joe also here. But understanding we're not here to criticize you or roast you, okay? But we do, I think, need to do our part to make you aware that you're going to hear opposition like this. You're going to hear, it's not going to be brutal. It's just I'm going to really have you. I really want you to defend what you're saying here. And
play the devil's advocate. That's what it's all about.
Okay, I'm not here to to ruin your campaign or anything like that. But I do think it's important that we as conservatives learn how to or make the extra effort to articulate why we believe what we believe. Not so much what we believe, but why we believe it. I think that's what's missing from the conservative conversation. And I'm looking at your stance on education here off of your website here. And I would say, I understand what you're writing here. I understand what you're stating. But from my perspective, this is just my own personal perspective, it seems like to a certain degree here, you are engaging in a type of social engineering, very much like what the left would want to do. Not the way that you want to do it. I'm saying that our school, our education system has become a social engineering factory and a test factory, And when I think about things like, reading your views here, and you talk about, I understand this, balancing checkbooks and general finances, credit management. Those are all good things. I wish I'd had that when I was in school. I probably would be a lot better off today had they done that. But when we get into things like, let's see what's in here. Education on drugs and alcohol. I think things like that are supposed to come more from the home than from school. And it's not that they're bad. It's not that it's a bad idea. It's just from my perspective, being more traditional, you would think that would be something that should come out of the home much more than the school. The school may be reinforcing it, but shouldn't this kind of stuff be coming out of the home?
Yeah, I agree completely that it should start at home. It should be 100% effective at home. But there are so many families and parents out there that are removed from the society and removed from the educational system when it comes to the drugs and alcohol standpoints. They haven't had to deal with it, or they've dealt with it and haven't had the best of luck. I want these children to actually have the opportunity to get a clear perspective. They need to have a clear perspective on what life is about, what they're about to engage in as they leave school. It says further on down, if we leave our kids educated the way they are, we're leaving them greatly unprepared for a future outside the nest. If they're unprepared, our future is in jeopardy for our grandkids and our great-grandkids. We have to prepare them better. What I'm saying is the educational system thinks that Republicans are ignorant. I'm sorry. That has to go. That whole idea has to go. This platform and stance will prove that to the educators that, hey, we believe in a proper education. We are supported in higher education. We want to make sure our children and our future of this nation are prepared for their future. Otherwise, we're going to run into more problems with the illicit drug uses, with the, i.e., millennial crowd. We've got so much going on that these kids have not been educated, or they've been sugar-coated and pampered. We need to get serious. Like I was on my platform stance on education, you notice there's a firearms education course in there. We need to be blunt. We need to be realistic. We need to have the kids understand what this is. They see a gun. How many times in the newspaper have you seen or heard one 9-year-old picks up a gun, accidentally discharges in the other one, killing that other child? That's uneducated. Mm-hmm. Had the parents, been responsible, gun owners, which I'm a Second Amendment freak myself, I don't own a gun, but I believe it is a right of the people to bear arms and that shall not be infringed upon. It's in our Constitution. The government should be staying out of it. Okay? There's only 5 reasons, and I've stated them on my platform, that the right to bear arms should ever be infringed upon. But back to the topic of education. We need to prepare the kids. We need to have them understand what the future lies for them and what they're going to run into out there, so they can make an educated choice to abstain from it instead of an uneducated mistake.
I agree with that. In fact, I have a T-shirt I bought at a gun show that has a Bible and a pistol on it, and it says 2 things missing from school. 2 things every kid should know, and neither one of them are in school. And along with that, I want to ask you this, and then I'm going to give Joe the con here. What is your position in regards to the Department of Education at the federal level? Do you think that should exist? Do you think it should be abolished, or do you think it needs reform? What's your stance on that?
My stance is that ultimately the choice of education is in the hands of the parents. That's where it should be. It's where it's been supposed to be. That's where it was created. Homeschooling, when our great nation was founded, everybody was homeschooled.
Would you be in favor? Would you be in favor of abolishing the Department of Education?
I think I would. I think it needs to be less federal, more locally ran. If they're going to have a Department of Education, it should be a state-run agency by the people, not by the party politicians, not by the lobbyists, not by the special interest groups. Those, and I'm not trying to make you feel uncomfortable when I say party politics. I'm literally tired of seeing somebody who is elected. I'm elected Democrat. I must follow this to the T and follow these endorsements.
All right, Joe, you've got the con.
That would be Al Franken to a T right there. That's what he does. That's definitely Al Franken's mantra right there. Now, my question for the education side is, what are you going to do about the NEA? Because they're certainly not going to go along with this. If you try to give parents choice, the NEA is going to be all against that, because they want the cookie cutter school system that you see. We've got to have 15 rows of 5, and children must face one face forward, and I don't care what goes on, and we shall have nothing but this and only this, and we'll have this in every school. And so the NEA and the teachers union are going to give you, as governor, they're going to give you. I don't think they're going to go along with your plan.
Well, I know they're not going to go along with it. In fact, the ADA is going to have to listen to this one. It is time to stop teaching children to be labor force workers. You need to engage free thinking, critical thinking, and creativity, because you're putting them into a mold, and that mold is just for corporate workers. What happened to the free thinking? What happened to independent thought and creativity? It's being trampled down by these ADA-type organizations. We need to get outside the box and actually teach our kids, engage them on levels that they haven't been engaged before, educate them on things that they're interested in as well. If they have a creative thought, encourage it, get it going, help them get through that creative process, because the more you engage that creative process, the more beauty that mind creates. And when that mind is moving and creating things of beauty, we can only win.
Now, what is your legislative makeup in the state of Minnesota right now? Is it do you have a Democrat majority, a Republican majority, a split? How's that set up right now?
Well, after the last election, we seem to have gone closer to the pink side than blue. There's only maybe 5 real hubs of Democratic strongholds. And this is one of the reasons I'm running the way I am, is because I'm going to target Democrats as well as Republicans and independents.
Okay.
And I'm going to win their votes. I'm going to be the voice of the people, for the people, because that's the governor's job. He's supposed to, any elected official, is supposed to represent the people that he is representing. You're supposed to hear them. You need to listen to them in order to know how they want. And in my commercial itself, it says, my hand will be swayed, veto passed, depending on what the people say. Because ultimately, if we work together, the people win.
I have to be honest, I always smile to myself when I hear people running for office, and they say things to me like what you just said. I'm for the people. We all come into politics. I think everybody comes into politics with this idea of this purity streak of we can make a difference and everything else. But you're in every state. You're running into people that are more established, the trends and the templates, I call them, that they have established there. And it's going to be, when you come out with your platform, when you get elected and you come out with your platform, and you're going to, the Democrats are not going to line up and say, okay, well, he won. I mean, we see that right now. Donald Trump won, and they're lining up to do what? Everything they can to disrupt his administration before it's even taken office. And you're going to meet the same kind of resistance. Yeah, especially when you've got you've got pinheads like Al Franken out there leading the charge, and so I'm kind of curious. You're going to come in here and say this is what we need to do with our education system, and as Joe said, not only the unions, but the people that are beholden to the unions, the people sitting in your state legislators. How are you going to? Because you're going to have a bully pulpit of sort. How are you going to use that?
See, there's a big wise tale a lot of people have out there that Republicans don't like unions. I'm actually for unions. The reason I'm for unions is unions are like miniature governments. The heads look out for the people that they're, their constituents. They're supposed to be. Now, where they've gone corporate, that's a problem. They stopped identifying with the people.
Yeah.
They've got to go back to identifying with the people and protecting them. But yes, I understand I'm going to run into a lot of ADA issues and union issues. But I think if they sit down and hear me speak and we can come to a conclusion, we can come up with a plan that works together in the best interest of the children and in the best interest of the people. They are not the power. It's the people that are the power. It says right in our Constitution, elected officials are supposed to represent the people, not supersede the people, not dictate to the people.
Right.
Otherwise, we might as well just be communist China or North Korea.
All right. I hate to interrupt you here midstream here. We got to go to our commercials here, pay our bills. We've got Christopher Chamberlain running for Minnesota governor. We'll be right back, guys. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate.
Hey, I'll make you a deal. Give me 60 seconds and I'll give you directions to the Fountain of Youth. Okay, I'm joking. Well, kind of joking. No fountains, but youth, I got Nature's Youth and their premier anti-aging product, Nature's Youth RSF. With your sensible diet and exercise plan, Nature's Youth RSF can help you look and feel better. RSF is an all-natural amino acid supplement that supports your body to naturally increase HGH levels without any synthetic hormones. And elevated HGH levels can contribute to increased energy, improved libido, reduced body fat, and improved exercise capacity. Let's be honest. Who doesn't want to look and feel younger? Visit the newly designed website at naturesyouth.com or call 800-333-6923. That's 800-333-6923 and like them on Facebook and you'll be included in contests and exclusive offers. What a deal. Oh, speaking of deals, my time's about up. 800-333-6923 or naturesyouth.com. Who needs a fountain anyway? Call today.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
When I had a heart attack at 42, I was not sure what the future held. But a year later, the doctors could find nothing wrong with me and took me off all my medication. What did I do? I took a herbal mixture of garlic, cayenne, and a few other herbs mixed in liquid form. I now call this Extendovite. I would have never believed that a few simple herbs could actually change my life like they did. Now it's your turn to see what the powers of garlic and cayenne can do for you. For only $69.95 plus shipping and handling for a 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid, you too can begin on your path to better health. For more information, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822. Or visit our website at heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
I've owned my company for 14 years now, and I can tell you that payroll is a 4-letter word. I hate doing it. It eats up hours I don't have, and it costs me money I could be saving. But my accountant's too expensive, and I'm not sure who to call, but I know I need help.
We're Paychex, and we take all the hassles out of small business payroll. We save you time and money. It's easy. Call, fax, or give us your payroll information securely online, and we take care of the rest. We calculate the correct taxes, manage payments and direct deposits. We even send out your checks. Payroll doesn't need to be a 4-letter word anymore. We're so sure that we can save you time and money that we'll give you a month's payroll free. Just for calling 877-663-3830. Get 1 month's payroll for free. Call Paychex right now. 877-663-3830. That's 877-663-3830.
Hey, I don't back anybody unless I believe in them. And I do believe in the value of investing in gold and silver. And the company I trust to buy my gold and silver from is Swiss America. I've been working with them for nearly a decade. I trust them, and you can too. Swiss America will help you sort through and find the best options available when you're considering investing in gold and silver coins. Listen, for over 30 years, Swiss America has been offering Americans what they want in their investments: safety, liquidity, quality, reliability, and a potential profit. Gold and silver have a place in every investor's portfolio. So, why not let Swiss America help you diversify your investment portfolio now? Call now for free information. 800-978-3907, 800-978-3907, 800-978-3907, 800-978-3907.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control of your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank accounts, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problem now by calling the experts at U.S. Tax Shield and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. U.S. Tax Shield offers a price protection guaranteed quote to get you protected today. U.S. Tax Shield is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, so call now. 800-380-2906. That's 800-380-2906. U.S. Tax Shield. 800-380-2906.
Now back to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. Okay, hey, we are back. You are listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with Joe Hayko. So we've got with us right now Christopher Chamberlain, running for governor out there in the state of Minnesota. And we're talking to him about his platform. Because that's how we vet all of our candidates. Any candidate that we have on our show, we simply go to their website and we take the information placed there by the candidate. And I'm going to tell you, more than once, I've had candidates on this show who could not tell me what their website says. And that's why I do it, because sometimes these people just delegate it to somebody else. And, people are out there saying things about the candidate, and the candidate thinks his job or her job is just to go out and shake hands and, raise money. And that's not what it's all about. If you can't articulate your position on something, you shouldn't be running. And Christopher's done a very good job so far articulating his beliefs here on education. But we want to move on to the issue of abortion here. And, Joe, you have the question for Christopher here.
Yeah, Mr. Chamberlain, as you probably can tell, there's probably the one issue I'm going to have, and that would be your position on abortion. And what I have it is, just from your website, and it says when it comes to the topic of pro-choice, pro-life, you're in support of both. And I'd like to know, I have some issues on that, but I'll just let you go ahead and explain this to me.
Well, that is something I've sat down and thought about for a while, and that is a platform stance that is actually under reconstruction. I chatted with a gentleman named Paul Green from California. He's a wonderful man, retired pastor, and we talked. And there's one simple stance that I think I'm going to adjust to, and that's God's will be done. We can't make the choices of life and death. It's not really our job. If we try and supersede his plan, we're taking God out of the picture, and that's not okay with me. And it took a little bit of deliberation and me thinking about that, going, I want to be, originally want to be fair to all, but life is life. We have to protect life. God has a plan. He knows what he wants for us, and he doesn't make mistakes. Man is fallible where God is not. So that the abortion topic, we can clear that up. God's will be done. If God says this child is not going to live, that child is not going to live. If God said this child will live, take care of that child. If you cannot handle taking care of that child after your night of hanky-panky, then give up the responsibility that someone else may care for that child and show that child love and nurturing, educate them.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. I'm glad that you had that epiphany, because that was really that was the one thing that bothered me the most, was how, you tell me the time. What is the time that is okay for a child to live? Is that at 9 weeks? Is that at 9 minutes? Is that 9 years after birth? When can a child not be killed anymore? And that's what I was. So thank you with that.
Yeah. Otherwise, there'd be retroactive abortions, and then we'd end up with.
Yeah, I'm one of these people, Christopher. I've spent a good number of years in ministry, pretty much better part of 20 years. I spent about half that time in the office of pastor. So I've had to counsel people on this type of stuff. And not unlike Barack Obama, who tells us it's above his pay grade, or it's a decision that people think about and they confer with their pastors and this, that. A lot of people don't do that, okay? A lot of people, if they were conferring with their pastors, they'd be doing that before conception and not afterwards. And so what you have, that was just he said this back in 2008, was just a lame brain way to walk away from the issue. It's above my pay grade. Well, the thing is, I have had to counsel people on this. I've had women coming to me. I can think of two right off the top of my head that came to me, teenagers. 16 was one of them. The other one was just turned 18. And, they were afraid. They were afraid, geez, what am I going to do? How am I going to raise this? Because the men walked away. The men didn't want to share in the responsibility, that kind of stuff, which happens a lot amongst our adolescents. And, I could not, what I told the girls were this. I said, I cannot sit here and give you any reason or excuse to take the easy way out and have these children aborted. Now, I can understand you doing it, but I cannot condone it, because you have to understand that you're going to have to deal with the consequences of that. And a lot of that is going to be the guilt of having done it. And then, your relationship with God is going to be affected by it. In a lot of cases, it forces women, or women walk away from their relationship with God because of the guilt and the condemnation, because inherently we know that life is sacred and that God holds it sacred. And so when we do things contrary to God and his design, we inherently know that. And so you have to make that decision, but you also have to understand you will pay the consequences for it. And you will not just walk away, just free from all responsibility. You will have a sense of responsibility, even in the sense of guilt and condemnation. Well, both of these girls ended up having their children. And I've watched these children grow up. One of them just graduated college. The other one is a sophomore in high school. And just beautiful women. I mean, just beautiful women. Turned out to be great children, great Christians. So, you talk to these women now, and it's like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't do that.
So, Mr. Chamberlain, as governor, what are you going to do to help people make a proper decision, maybe make a decision prior to, ultimately, they should be making this decision not to get into the position to have a child. I
back the defunding of Planned Parenthood, I'll tell you that one.
Say again?
I back 100% the defunding of Planned Parenthood.
Okay, let's say, let me interrupt you, Joe.
How about prior to that? How about prior to getting pregnant?
Yeah,
Parents, I think parents need to do a lot more talking about, hey, this is appropriate, this is not. We're growing up, children being raised in a society that has stopped identifying with a good relationship with God, or moms, dads, husbands, wife, what the family unit is about. And we need to start getting back on that as Americans in general, not just Minnesotans, but in America. We need to embrace the family unit again and bring God back into the picture, because people have stepped away from him so far that some of the kids don't even know what God is, or who Jesus Christ is, or what he did. They know more about this Muhammad guy than they do that, because they're teaching it in school. Well, it's okay for you to teach the Muslim or the Islamic faith in school, educate my children, but you won't tell them who Christ was? Give me a break. That's not right.
Okay, now let's put this in the political arena here for a moment. I agree with you. You know, you could add that to your education platform, by the way. But here's the deal. Okay, you're in favor of defunding Planned Parenthood. Donald Trump says that he is going to defund Planned Parenthood. But we also know that there's going to be a lot of dancing around. And let's just say that Trump's decision or his attempts to defund Planned Parenthood fall flat because the Democrats are able to pull off a filibuster or whatever, and it gets left in the continuing resolutions that they pass every quarter for spending. Will the state of Minnesota, under your governorship, accept money for Planned Parenthood?
No.
So you'd be willing to give up all the federal funding that they will try to blackmail you with then?
Yeah, because it's an organization. If they stop doing abortions and they start getting to the real issues of educating people, maybe then they should get some funding. But get the corporate involvement out of there. Why don't you give somebody with a spiritual background into the Planned Parenthood system and they can start educating them spiritually, like we were just talking about. Get the ignorance out. Stop the aborting. You get rid of this garbage and start talking about really what life decisions are. Educate them. Don't give them a way out. Educate. 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 How much clearer can I be?
Mm-hmm. Okay. I can deal with that. I can. You got any comment there, Joe?
I just so yeah, you can educate them. How are you going to do that as a state level? Now we're going to have to go to a break here very shortly, a short break. But as we come back, can you describe any programs that you're going to instill as governor of Minnesota that would help educate this? Because Planned Parenthood's not going to do it, so you're going to have to instill something else, something at a state level in your state that makes this happen.
Yeah. We'll cover that when we get back here. We got to go to a quick break here, short break, where we've got Christopher Chamberlain running for governor out there in Minnesota. We'll be right back, folks. There is an old saying, children should be seen but not heard. At no time is this more apparent than when politicians speak. The Conservative Syndicate.net, the adults in the room. Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardosa. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardosa Live Daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decisions concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosalive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosalive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did. History affirms a vibrant civil society thrives on freedom of conscience, religion, and choice. Any society absent these qualities stifles individual responsibility and accountability, thus enslaving its people by denying them their potential for goodness, creativity, and altruism. To that extent, oppression, coercion, and totalitarianism are multiplied exponentially. To counter such outcomes, the American Freedom Alliance was formed. The AFA is a nonpartisan, non-aligned movement which promotes, defends, and upholds Western values and ideals. The Alliance strives to build an international coalition of citizens of the West who together promote and protect moral values, democracy, and freedom. To find out more and become part of this valuable asset in the preservation of freedom and all its rewards, contact us at AmericanFreedomAlliance.org. That's AmericanFreedomAlliance.org. Let freedom ring. Now back to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. All right, hey, we're back. We want to encourage you. Take a moment sometime during the week or maybe over the weekend. That's a really good time. Over the weekend, visit our website, theconservativesyndicate.net. If you're still out there trying to return your Christmas gifts on Amazon or whatever, and you got to be spending time on the internet, take a moment, plug our show in instead of listening to Beyonce or something like that. Listen to something that will actually benefit you. The Conservative Syndicate.net. We've got Christopher Chamberlain here with us. And, Chris, I really want to try to get you beyond giving me, I'm just going to say it, a talking point here regarding what we need to do to educate people. We need, you're the governor. You're going to be the governor. People are going to really want some solid answers from you, and if you don't have something there, that your opponents are just going to rip you apart. I just know this. I've been doing this for 10 years, and I've seen people, take it pretty tough. And so we talk about education, and I agree with your concept. The idea of education is the most important thing, and certainly our education system is doing everything they can to undermine the idea that we can teach things. You were talking in your platform here about automotive care and teaching simple things like how to cook a meal and how to survive and take care of yourself. Well, maybe we need to reintroduce sex education and not in the form of homosexual politics or homosexual history like we've got out here in California. What specifically, do you have any idea how you would implement your education into the system that you've got out there in Minnesota?
That's going to be something I'm going to have to sit and pray on and do some deliberating with, honestly. I'm going to be looking into that heavily. I don't have the direct, most straightforward answer that I know you would like right now, but that is something I want to take under advisement and really come up with a clear, clean, decisive plan.
Okay, so now how long between now and the actual day of your election?
We're looking at 24 months close to before the election.
Okay, so you've got a little bit of time. Okay, if you're going to tell me it's going to be like this coming June or something, I'm going to say, wow, you're going to be pressed.
Right.
Yeah.
We've got some time ahead of us, and there's a lot of things that I am continually to evolve. We are human. We evolve.
Yeah.
We take what we got, we grow, we learn, we adjust. This is how I believe it is the Marine Corps' anthem, adapt and overcome. Improvise, adapt, and overcome. Well, that's what life is about, improvisation, adapting, and overcoming the odds. And this is something I'm going to want to do. I want to deliberate on that. I want to actually come up with a real plan.
Okay, that's fair enough. You think so, Joe?
Yeah, definitely. And you got the time to do it. I would say, change up your website to get more people to go to it, because if you got something on there that you don't agree with, you need to change it, because people are going to go, this is what Christopher Chamberlain is. This is who he is. And if there's something on there that is not you, you need to have it changed and do it quickly, because the internet's forever.
Yeah,
and if that's advice that we could give Hillary Clinton, is the internet's forever, Hillary.
Well, let's put it this way. I didn't want to change anything before I spoke with you tonight, because you guys have already viewed my platform. I wanted to make sure that you understand where I'm coming from. You wanted you to be open, honest, and see what I had written. I don't hide from anything.
Oh yeah. We're not saying you are. It's just we understand very well how the politics work in terms of just the operations. Your opponents are out there looking at your website, and they read that and they say, well, okay, here's your stance. And then you come up and do a debate someplace, and your website is changed, and they say, "Oh, the flip-flopper. The guy's a flip-flopper." So it's you don't want to give them any more ammunition than they already are gathering. That's really our point. I like I said, we're not here to badger you. I'm just like I just really want people to understand, because the governorships in this country are just important than the Congress, the way things are shaping up right now, which kind of leads me where I want to go here in the few minutes that we've got left with you. Your economy, I have no idea what the economy's like in Minnesota. What's your tax rate out there?
It's up there. It varies, actually. I believe, like county to county, city to city, everything is all a mumble-jumble mess of, well, you live here, you're going to pay this much. You live here, you're shopping here, you're paying this much. It's a mess. With the taxing and budgeting plan that we are actually going to review, it is under review. We want to propose a tax incentive to bring businesses back to Minnesota. Minnesota, like Well, we were at one time one of the forefront states of economic infrastructure, of, how do you say it, industry, trade. Unfortunately, those days have kind of wish-washed a little bit out, and it's time for us to bring them back. I know Donald Trump says, I'm going to bring jobs back to America, and I agree. I think he's going to. He's been doing it so far, and he's not even in office. But some of the companies are getting scared because of the tariffs. Well, this is how we do this. Let's offer some of these companies a tax incentive to bring businesses back. The existing companies help businesses boom, because when we support our businesses, small, medium, and large businesses, and give them the breaks, a little bit of a tax incentive to help them grow and hire more people, now we have a system that is building money and revenue. If we can hire more people, less people are on a system that is corrupt currently, our welfare system, and I won't even go into that with you, it is bad. But if we support business, if we help businesses thrive and help them grow and hire more people, the economy grows because people can afford to spend more. And if they spend more, they're shopping more. And then these businesses make more money and they can invest that back into the community. It's a snowball effect, but we have to start somewhere. And starting by reaching out to these businesses and saying, hey, let's work together. I believe that's a very strong standpoint of realist view. We have to be realistic. We have to reach out and help these businesses.
Well,
a lot of these mom and pops have failed. And I know you remember when you were a kid, probably walking down to the corner store, which was a mom and pop owned store, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a bigger sense of community.
Exactly. We need that back. I want, like at one point in time, Minnesota was so different when I was a kid. You probably read my bio, and, you know, the sense of security, the sense of safety in Minnesota, completely different than it is now. And I want Minnesota, my home, back. I want to help those days come back. And if we work together with these businesses and with the people, I think we can succeed at that.
Well, I can tell you from my perspective here, and the things I hear the most from people throughout the country when I talk to them, whether I'm here on the air or social media or when I'm out on vacation. I go on vacation a couple times a year, and I meet people from all over the world. And one of the two things you might want to consider here: state tax seems to be a big issue with people, and taxing retirement. Those are the things I hear the most of. If you can cut back on taxing people's retirement plans, you're going to get major brownie points for that. And
well, that's a plain and simple that's a dumbfounded question. No offense, like a no-brainer, as it would say. These guys have worked, or these men and women have worked all their life for their retirement. What is it yours to touch? It's not. Taxing retirement is just plain. Well, methodical and evil. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. That's not right. These people sacrifice their life to bring us up, and why are we treating them like that? That's not appropriate.
Well, Christopher, I appreciate your honesty and everything for coming on tonight. That is refreshing to have someone and being so straightforward and honest, and I really appreciate that. I know John does as well.
Yeah. We're at the end of our segment here, and I wanted to give you time, Christopher, to promote your website so that people can get out there and help you grease the wheels.
All right. The website is chamberlainformn.com. Again, that's chamberlinformn.com. We've got a donation platform, a volunteer platform, and a lot of our stances are up, and you can even meet part of the team. We have Derek Boyd Hankerson, who is my senior campaign advisor. He's listed on there. You can contact him. You can send us an email. You can contact me directly. I am probably one of the only political candidates out there who releases his direct cell phone number. I'd rather have people call and talk to me. You want to ask me a question, ask me the question. Don't ask my campaign advisor. Don't ask my press secretary. Come to me, because we can discuss. I'm not unreachable. I like to be out there with the people, because the people are who I'm supposed to represent.
Well, sir, I really appreciate you taking the time on, and I wish you best of luck. I plan on keeping tabs on you here to see how the race goes. And as we get down the line here, as we get closer in alignment with our views and everything, we will do what we can do to give you airtime. We can offer you that. So, again, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on.
I thank you guys for the opportunity. It means a lot.
All right. God bless you. All right. Good luck. Okay, guys, we're at the end of the show here. We'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same place, 3 o'clock here out on the West Coast, 6 o'clock on the East Coast. God bless you. We love you. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of the Conservative Syndicate, the nationally acclaimed, globally syndicated, politically incorrect talk show that seeks to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state. We want to make you aware you can find and access all our show archives at our website, theconservativesyndicate.net, as well as our broadcast stations and times. That's theconservativesyndicate.net. We so appreciate you taking the time to tune in, and we so look forward to continuing to bring you the best in uncompromised talk radio available on the net today. And remember, folks, it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down in life. It only matters how many times you get up. I'm John Matthews, along with Joe Hako, signing off until next time right here at the Conservative Syndicate. God bless you, and may God continue to bless America.